Our story begins deep in the humble outskirts of a small province in the Philippines, in a home made not of perfect walls or polished floors, but of endless love. Inside that home lived a boy named Lian, a quiet, shy 12-year-old who carried a voice no one knew about, not even himself. His father was a jeepney driver, waking before sunrise every single day to earn just enough to keep food on their table. His mother worked in a nearby market selling vegetables, always greeting every customer with a smile even when life often gave her little reason to do so. And there was his little sister, Mia, only 8, whose laughter echoed through the house like wind chimes dancing in the breeze. Their family had little, but they had each other, and to Lian, that was everything. Every evening, the 4 of them gathered in their small living space, with the fading light slipping through the window. His father would tune the old radio, and the warm golden sound of classic Elvis Presley songs filled their home. The crackling static of the decades-old speaker didn't matter. To them, those songs were magic. His father would tap his foot, his mother would hum softly as she prepared their dinner, and Mia would grab her imaginary microphone, singing with all the confidence in the world. And Lian, quietly tucked beside the wall, listened so closely that he memorized every note, every tremble, every breath of Elvis's legendary voice. But he never dared sing. Not once. Not out loud. Because even at 12, he believed that dreams were for people who had more than he did. People who had money. People who lived in cities. People who weren't him. But life has a way of changing everything in a single day. It was a Sunday morning. The air was warm, the sun bright. Birds chirped like the world itself was celebrating. Lian's father had decided they would all go into the city to visit his grandmother. It was supposed to be a day of joy, of family, of moments that last a lifetime. But none of them knew that the lifetime they expected was about to end. They boarded an old provincial bus, one they had taken so many times before. But that day, the road was wet from a rainstorm the night before. The driver tried to avoid a speeding truck approaching from the opposite lane, but the bus lost control. Everything happened too fast. Screams, metal twisting, glass shattering, and then silence. Lian woke up in a hospital bed 2 days later, his body bruised, his vision blurred. But the real pain was not in his bones. It was in what he was told next. His father, gone. His mother, gone. His little sister, gone. Just like that, every piece of his heart taken from him. He cried until his voice cracked. He screamed until the nurses had to hold him. And when his tears ran dry, he lay there, staring at the ceiling, wishing he had been the one who didn't survive. Because the world felt colder, darker, emptier than he had ever imagined. The next weeks were a blur. He was sent to live with his elderly aunt, a woman who tried her best to show love, but grief made everything heavy. Their home was even poorer than the one he grew up in. The nights were quiet now. Too quiet. No Elvis songs, no laughter, no humming, just grief. For months, he barely spoke to anyone. He didn't smile, he didn't play, he didn't sing, he didn't even feel alive. But pain doesn't stay silent forever. One night, unable to sleep, he sat outside under the moon, staring at the stars and wondering if his family could see him. His aunt was asleep, the house quiet, and for the first time since the accident, his mind drifted to the memory of his father's radio. He whispered a single line of an Elvis song. Just one, barely audible, but that one note awakened something inside him that had been locked away. He tried again, and again, and again. The more he sang, the more the pain in his chest loosened. His voice cracked at first, trembling with sadness. But slowly, with each word, the sound grew stronger, deeper, richer. And in the quiet stillness of the night, a voice unlike any child's emerged from his broken heart. It sounded strangely like Elvis Presley. Not an imitation, not a copy, but a soul-torn, grief-shaped voice with the same depth, warmth, and emotion that made Elvis unforgettable. His aunt woke up and heard him. She froze. She had never heard anyone sing like that. Not even grown professionals. She cried silently from the doorway, covering her mouth in shock. From that moment on, she encouraged him to sing whenever he felt the sadness returning. And he did. Singing was the only thing that made him feel connected to the family he lost. Each song became a prayer, a memory, a heartbeat. Months passed. Then a traveling talent scout visited their province to find young singers for auditions in Manila. Lian's aunt insisted he try. He refused at first. He didn't want attention. He didn't want the world to feel his pain. But she told him something he would never forget. Your voice is a gift from the family you lost. Don't hide the gift they left behind. And so, trembling with fear, he agreed. When he arrived at the audition venue, he was overwhelmed by the lights, the crowd, the cameras, the noise. He felt small. He felt out of place. Kids in expensive clothes, carrying branded guitars, practicing vocal runs that echoed through the hallways made him feel like he didn't belong. He had no vocal training, no lessons, no coach, just pain, memory, and a voice that didn't fit his age. But when he sang during the pre-audition, every judge in the room froze. Some stared wide-eyed, one covered her mouth, another whispered to a colleague. They couldn't understand how a small boy with such sad, gentle eyes could produce a voice with the power of a legend. He was immediately approved to audition for the global stage. 1 month later, Lian found himself standing behind the giant AGT stage doors in Los Angeles. The place he had only seen on television. The place he never imagined he would step foot in. He stood there holding his aunt's hand, shaking so hard he thought he would collapse. Inside the theater, thousands of people filled the seats. The lights were blinding, the whispers loud, the pressure immense. He felt so tiny, like a single drop in an ocean of giants. The stage manager called his name. His aunt knelt beside him and cupped his face. Sing for them the way you sing for your family. The doors opened, and he stepped into a world brighter than anything he had ever known. Simon Cowell leaned forward the moment he saw the boy. Heidi Klum tilted her head, smiling gently. Sofia Vergara softly waved at him. And Howie Mandel gave him an encouraging nod. Simon asked him softly, "What's your name?" He swallowed, voice trembling. "Lian. Where are you from?" "The Philippines." Simon's expression softened. "And what will you be singing today?" Lian paused, took a deep breath, and answered, "An Elvis song." It was my father's favorite. Simon raised his eyebrows, intrigued. The music started. Low, nostalgic, the kind of tune that wraps itself around the heart. Lian closed his eyes, and the world disappeared. Then, he sang. The first note shot through the room like lightning. A deep, rich vibrato. A tone filled with soul far beyond his young age. A voice soaked in tragedy, memory, and love. The crowd gasped. Heidi's jaw dropped. Sophia immediately clutched her chest. Howie stared in disbelief. But Simon froze. His usual serious expression melted into pure shock. His eyes widened. He leaned back, then leaned forward again, trying to process what he was hearing. Because the voice coming from that small Filipino boy, it sounded hauntingly close to Elvis Presley himself. Not forced, not exaggerated, but natural, heartfelt, real. Lian poured every ounce of his pain into the song. Every word sounded like a goodbye he never had the chance to say. Every note carried the weight of the family he lost. The audience felt it. The judges felt it. Even the cameras seemed to feel it. Halfway through the song, Simon's eyes turned glassy. He blinked rapidly, trying not to tear up. Something deeper was happening. Something beyond talent. This was a child singing not to impress, but to survive. When he reached the final note, he held it with the strength of a grown man and the vulnerability of a broken child. The entire room rose to its feet in a standing ovation that seemed to last forever. Lian stood frozen, breathing heavily, holding back tears. Simon Cowell looked at him, stunned, speechless for several seconds. Then he stood up, walked slowly to the golden buzzer, and placed his hand over it. He looked directly at Lian and said, "What you just did is more than an audition. It is a miracle." Then he slammed the golden buzzer. Golden confetti exploded around the boy. The crowd roared. Lian covered his face, crying harder than he had cried since the day of the accident. His aunt rushed onto the stage, hugging him tightly as the confetti fell like blessings from heaven. Simon stepped onto the stage, placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and whispered, "Your family would be so proud of you." Lian broke down completely. From that moment, his life changed forever. His audition went viral worldwide. Millions of people cried watching his story. Music producers reached out. Fans from every country sent letters. And for the first time since the accident, the boy felt something he had forgotten existed. Hope. But more than fame or applause, what mattered most to him was this. When he stood under those bright stage lights, singing the way his father once played the radio, he felt them with him. He felt his father's smile, his mother's gentle humming, his little sister's laughter. He didn't just sing for them. He brought them back to life through his voice. And in every performance that followed, he carried their memory like a flame that would never go out. He was no longer the boy who lost everything. He was the boy who turned loss into a miracle. He was the boy who shocked Simon Cowell with the voice of a legend. And he was the boy who proved that even the deepest pain can bloom into the most extraordinary gift. Because sometimes, the world takes everything from you. But sometimes, it gives something back. Something powerful, something beautiful, something that can change lives. Just like his voice did. Just like his story did. And just like the love of his family always will.